Um, okay, so parasites. I keep getting emails in my inbox and messages in Facebook um, about intestinal parasites. And part of the reason why I'm getting more of them right now is it's summer. It's hot, it's humid. That's the time when parasites like to reproduce and go a little bit crazy. So, Giardia is found in puddles, standing water. It's kind of like that whole lepto thing. And with all the rain and humidity, there's much more standing water around. Um, my son got Giardia when he was 2 years old from, playing out in the backyard in puddles and, what little kids do. But our animals certainly can get it as well. We see it very commonly in puppy mill dogs, puppy mill puppies sold through pet stores. Very, very common. When you have high crowding and their immune systems are not so good, that's a time when you will absolutely find more of it. And one of the problems with treating intestinal parasites is people make the mistake of they get a positive stool sample on one pet, they treat that pet and they don't look at anybody else. And you need to check everybody. Now, if you've got 10 dogs and you got to get 10 stool samples checked, that's kind of expensive. You can also just say, well, I don't feel like doing that. I'm going to treat everybody. That's another option. But that's, you got to figure out what you want to do with that. But we have had families where they treat one dog for Giardia and then they bring back a stool sample a month later to make sure everything was cleared up. Still have Giardia. We'll treat the dog 5 times and then finally we go, do you have any other animals at home? And then we kind of finally get the, oh yeah, I've got, 3 other dogs. Oh, okay, well, we've never seen them, and you're probably just passing it back and forth, and we're killing this one poor dog with all these medications. So, somebody emailed me this morning. They had one dog come up positive, and then they were worried about the second dog. And I said, well, treat the one dog, but then test stool samples on both of them after you do the treatment. So if you've got hookworms are another really common one in the summer. We get a lot more hookworm infestation in the summer. They really love the humidity and the heat. Hookworms are much more common in the south. We see them up here as well, but in the south, very, very, very common. And all these rescue dogs that are coming up from the south, they commonly are infested with multiple intestinal parasites. So I have a couple of clients who will not use any medications on their dog, and that's fine. They're very holistic, and they don't want to use any chemicals at all. And some of them are successful getting rid of parasites, others not so much. And so basically, their dogs are just chronically infested with a parasite load, which they keep seeding the environment with. And that's their choice. That's fine. I understand not wanting to use the chemicals. Um, so if you are looking for natural remedies, diatomaceous earth as a feed through, adding it to the food, but you're going to have to do it for an extended period of time, anywhere from 1 to 2 months or ongoing, depending on what parasite you have. You may need to treat your yard with DE to help kill some of the parasite eggs. Whipworm eggs, they'll stay in your soil for at least 7 years. They are not subject to freezing and drying. They stay there for a very, very, very long time. Um, and I'm not one for just automatically deworming. I know that there are vet clinics, particularly a lot of the corporate ones, that say, every twice a year you should deworm your dog. And stool samples are not 100% accurate. That the worms have to actually be shedding eggs at the time that you take the stool sample. So it's probably only about 80% accurate. If you are suspicious, then, take a couple of stool samples over, a few weeks just to see, okay, I got one negative, particularly if your dog is symptomatic, check again. Um, Keeping your yard poop free, clean up, clean up, clean up. Particularly if you have a positive animal, you want to clean up, clean up, clean up. And if you can train your dogs to go in one corner of your yard so you only have one area that you have to worry about. And so, if we have in the past, we had a lot more, but we still have some where the dogs are tied out to a tree, or they live in a fenced in area in a small part of the yard. And if the dog has whipworms and we keep putting them back in that same area and that area is not treated, by the way, you need to dig the soil down 4 to 6 inches if you have whipworms, if you want to keep the dog in that same area. Um, Sometimes what we'll tell them is, look, deworm this dog, get a negative stool sample, and then move them to a different area. Because if they're back in an area where they are just constantly reinfesting themselves, it's an ongoing problem. You can also use Interceptor or Sentinel at full dose, and that will uh, give you kind of a monthly deworming. When we use it at the low dose, you're not going to get that intestinal parasite deworming. But at the full dose, it will help with roundworms, whipworms, and hookworms. Tapeworms should not be an ongoing problem for you unless your animal is constantly being reinfested by having a high flea load or eating small rodents. So, yeah, ground pumpkin seeds can work fairly well. The DE can work fairly well. Um, it's my mom's dog. She's just like walking into everything. Um, and then certainly cleaning up. Homeopet has something called Worm Clear, and I know that probably only Natural Pets and some of those other natural pet websites have herbal dewormers. Um, they can be effective, but very commonly you have to give them frequently. Like I think the Homeopet Worm Clear has to be given 3 times a day for a couple of weeks, and most people just aren't that consistent with those sorts of things. Wondercide and Cedarside won't do anything for intestinal parasites, other than if you keep the flea population down, then you decrease the tapeworm population. And I don't know if they have any sort of preparation that helps with intestinal parasites. So, 11-week-old puppy full dose of Interceptor, yeah, you certainly can. You certainly can, particularly if the low dose of Interceptor is the Safe Heart study. It's in the Needles to Natural book. Um, the website that is listed in there with the FDA, they finally took down because it was from the 90s, and I think that after 20 years they just disappear. So the website link doesn't work, but it is described in the book. It is actually a low dose of Interceptor given 45 days apart. So Interceptor Plus, that's got the praziquantel for tapeworms. You don't need that plus unless you have chronic tapeworms. You do not need the plus. It's just another marketing gimmick. So, okay, I got to get to work.